let's say you were a slave and you were given a diamond and a golden chain, and you were dripped out in designer's clothes and golden chains, and you ate the best foods, you took the best cars, you drove everywhere with your best car. Does that still make you a slave if you lack freedom? In fact, what defines a slave? Is it the location? Is it wealth? What is the most singular thing that defines a slave? For me, it's the lack of freedom. During the days of slavery, after slaves were released, what was the first thing they were told by their slave owners? You are free to go. So what separates you from a prisoner or a slave is freedom. And Morgan Housel made that clear. Money buys freedom, not happiness. Take a look at all the rich people today, like Jeff Bezos and even Kanye West. They are as free to do whatever they like. If your taxes are too high, they'll simply leave your country. If they do anything wrong, they can have the best lawyers to protect them. The best people I know are the most free people on this earth. The psychology of money is mostly an eye-opener and a humbling experience. The first story is about a man who became rich and started flaunting his wealth recklessly. And this part of the story stuck with me because it sounds like something I would do. Sir, this phone is $1,000. Me? What do you mean $1,000? Are you calling me poor? No, sir, I'm not calling you poor, but it's $1,000 you bought this. Come on, take this $2,000 from my hand. What do you mean $1,000? Are you calling me a poor man? Now, this book does show how much wealth generation has to do with your behavior and not what you read or what you know. Now, my question to you is, how possible is it that a gas station janitor in today's society can buy a 2-bedroom house? In fact, let's do the math here. I'm also going to use Google and pretend like an American janitor because a Nigerian janitor cannot even think of affording a car, not to talk of a house. Now, let's say, according to Google, you make $16,000 per year. Now, times that by 2,080 hours a year, we get about 34,819 minus taxes, that is $30,000 a year if you are lucky. Now, let's say you've probably got bills to pay. You might be left with a little lot less than that. So let's say you lived a very frugal life and it's not like you have a choice anyway. Food first, you don't buy any other thing, you don't go out. I wouldn't even account that you have a family because that would have been way worse for you. So you saved up $1,000 for 10 years. Now you are ready to buy a house. Hello, sir. I was wondering if I could buy a house maybe in New York City today. How much is it? Wait. What do you mean $1 million? I saved my whole life for this. What do you mean $1 million? Well, sir, we can probably get you on a mortgage for about saving $100,000 a month. What do you mean $700,000 a month? I can't afford this. Also, if you're currently watching this and you feel like subscribing, please do subscribe. It really helped me out a lot. Thank you. So now I'm not even going to get to the debate of who had it better, baby boomers or Gen Z. But apparently, this man in this book, Ronald Reed, was a janitor who was able to make $8 million as a net worth. What the hell? And of course, he didn't make this all from being just a janitor. He was also fixing up cars at gas stations and sweeping up floors at JCPenney. But holy, I don't think this is possible for anyone in our generation. But actually, it's possible. It's Dax. Now, on the contrast of the story, the book also presented another case of a Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive with an MBA. An MBA is a business degree at Harvard. You know how much that is like? Woo! So this man named Richard Foscone, I hope I'm pronouncing the name well. Foscone. Yeah, Foscone. This man named Richard Foscone had an amazing career. He ended up retiring in his 40s to become a philanthropist. But everything came crashing down on him due to 2008 financial crisis, and this was because of how heavily he borrowed. I don't think I need to explain leverage for you. Leverage is like, okay, let's say this. Let's say if I borrow you a large sum of money for business or trading or whatever I want to use it for, the more I give you, the more amount of money that I give you means you have a lot more percentage of losing that money. Let's say now I gave you $200,000 and you have a sum of $2,000. All you have to do is lose a percentage of that $200,000 I gave you for me to take both your money and like lose you probably lose everything you have. So you have $200,000, and what's 2% of $200,000? It's probably more than 2%. I was like, it's probably more, but you get the point. You end up a single percentage of the money lost, boom, you're gone. So this man over leveraged, and when the 2008 financial market crashed, boom, he lost everything. Now this book tells us the difference between the two people I just mentioned. Ronald Reed was patient, while Richard Foscone was greedy. And now the thing with greed is we all have it in us. Usually, when I hear stories like this, I look at myself and I'm like, nah, this is not me, I'm not greedy. I'm very different from these guys. This guy is just crazy. But this book showed me that not everyone is crazy. It was all to fulfill a plan in their head that makes sense to them but sounds truly crazy to us. Now, here is another question proposed by the book. If a doctor has learned how to become a better doctor by studying medicine, and an engineer, a better engineer, why hasn't trial and error taught us to become better personal finance investors for ourselves and other financial professionals? Why can't they be better? Why is no one a financial expert that can predict 80% certainty of every financial crisis? The Great Depression, I personally cannot account of anything. I have read it in books and watched all videos about it. Do I know what it was like to lose everything I have? No. Would I personally have the emotional scars of those people who lost all their stocks from the Great Depression? No. And just in case you don't know what the Great Depression is, it was the stock market crash. Many people lost their stocks. And do you think a person who lived through that time, losing all the money he had, would listen to me talking about he should save all his money in stocks? Do you think that is possible? Now, this book gives an example. If you were born in 1970 and the S&P 500 increased almost tenfold, adjusted for inflation during your teenage age, between your teens and your 20s, that's an awesome return. And if you were born in the 1950s and the market went literally nowhere in your teens and your 20s and adjusted for inflation, do you think you want to invest? Two groups of people separated by chance of different birth rates and go through life with different views on how the stock market works. Now, if you were born in 1950, the market went literally nowhere in your teens and your 20s and adjusted for inflation. Two groups of people separated by chance of birth year and going through life with completely different ideas on how the stock market works. Now, I'm going to add my own personal spin on it. And you wonder why our own parents didn't invest in Bitcoin. Most people were born in the 2000s. Like most people on YouTube anyway, like people who are actively on YouTube right now were born in 2000. And we know the rise of Bitcoin and NFTs, and a lot of people made money from this. Why some people actually lost a lot. Some are still in Bitcoin for the ride. Now, to some older generations, and you tell them about Bitcoin, this is madness. My dad personally doesn't still believe Bitcoin is real. He believes it's a scam. A view of money are formed from different worlds. This book states that every financial decision a person makes sense to them that moment and checks the box they need to check. They tell themselves a story about what they are doing and why this makes sense to them. And this story has been shaped by their own personal experiences in life. on movies, video games, music, sporting events, and books combined. But at first, I thought this was crazy and I was actually surprised. But when I think about it, it makes sense a lot. For a second, put yourself in their shoes with a lot of bills and living from paycheck to paycheck, and saving is literally impossible. Our dreams seem out of reach. Buying a lottery ticket is not only the only time you get to dream, but here in Nigeria, it's something else. Sports betting. Do you know how many people bet every day here? And it's not even small bets. Some people are betting for 1,000 odds. Do you know what the probability of 1,000 odds parlay of entering? Do you know what the probability is? This book tells us people do crazy things with money because we are all relatively new to the money game. And what makes sense to me might actually seem crazy to you. Now, my question to you is, do you believe in luck? Well, if you probably believe in luck, you believe in risks. And if you don't believe in luck, well, everybody believes in risks, right? But the thing is, my risk tolerance is different from yours. Now, my second question is, why can risks be measured but luck can't be measured? And how are they so closely related? Most business people today tell us money can't buy happiness and it was all luck. Not also to mention that them saying this proves the laws of power, right? Because a particular law of power says attribute success to luck. I think so. I have to check that out now. Psychology of money argues that success is all about a measure of both risk and luck, and the real way people move towards success is to avoid getting ruined. An important lesson from this book is don't risk what you have and need in order to get what you don't have and don't need. It sounds simple, right? Okay, let me give you a scenario. Tell me your decision. You know how people say if you go back to the past, they will do this and do that. Alright, I give you a chance, I give you a power to go back to the past and to make one decision. Let's say you know the exact price of gold was going to tank at a particular time, but I gave you a very limited amount of money that is enough to feed you and your family, but isn't enough to invest without your family starving. And in this scenario, you are not allowed to borrow from the bank or your friend or anyone. And you can't also tell anyone and pass this information to them. What would you do? What would you do? Now, I'm sure we all know Warren Buffett. He was able to build his net worth of $4.5 billion. I was told he started seriously investing at the age of 10. What? Wait. How do people actually invest? Like, how do people actually invest from the age of 10? Like, how? But seriously, these people have to be seriously investigated. Like, what do you mean age of 10? You know what I was doing at the age of 10? I was still busy playing PS2 and mobile games like Angry Bird. That would be 10 years ago. Yeah, I think so. So when Buffett seriously invested at the age of 10, by the time he was 30, he had about $1 million, which is approximately $9.3 million in today's age. And how was he able to do all this? Well, it's through a simple principle called compounding. And it wasn't that Warren Buffett was the best investor. No, it was because he started at an earlier age. If he started much later, then he would possibly not be as wealthy as he was. But in most of all this, something comes to my mind. If Elon Musk is a trillionaire right now, or maybe he has gone back to being a millionaire, in 10 to 20 years from now, that means that net worth should probably increase due to compounding. Now I'm wondering, would that make life more harder for everyone? Let's say Elon Musk now, due to compound, he probably has become a quintillion or something, like he has become very rich from 50 years from now. Do you know if to make our lives way worse or maybe our life will be easier? I really don't know. Now my second question to you is, if you had $10 million, what would you buy with it? Would you buy a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a yacht, or a mansion? Now, this book said getting money requires taking risks and being optimistic and putting yourself out there. But keeping money requires taking the opposite of risks. It requires humility and fear that whatever you made can be taken away from you just as quickly as you got it. Also, just so you know, I skipped a lot of advice because I don't want to break down the whole book that you don't have to read it again. I really advise that you go and read the book yourself so you can learn things on your own. But I did a very good summary of it. It's just to make you want to read more for yourself. Now let's play a game. Head or tails? Head if I win. Oh, no. Let's play a game. Head or tails? Heads, I win. Tails, you lose. Okay, no. Heads, I win. Tails, you win. Okay, let's flip a coin. Head, I win. Now, let's spin the odds in your favor a little bit. Let's play a game of heads and tails. But anytime you fail, I get $50. And anytime you win, you get $200. Now, the odds of you getting tails are 30%, which means if you spin 10 times, you win 3 times out of 7. And you have a total of $1,000. Now, you are allowed to bet more than $50. Maybe if you bet $500, you will get $5,000 instead. Or maybe if you get $5,000, you probably get $20,000 instead. But that will probably decrease your odds of winning because you have less turns of spinning. Now, the only way to win this game we're playing is if you play with $50 because you have a lot of time to take risk and keep playing the game, and eventually the odds goes to your favors. But if you decide to be greedy and play the game with $500, because I gave you a total of $1,000, you play $500, luck is not in your favor, you lose. And play another $500, luck is not in your favor, you lose. And that's exactly what this book is trying to tell us. Do you know Disney first studio went bankrupt? Do you know Walt Disney went bankrupt? His films were very expensive to produce and were financed at outrageous numbers. By the mid-1930s, Disney had produced more than 400 cartoons. Most of them were short and most of them were beloved by fans and most of them lost a fortune. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs changed everything. One question that comes to my mind to ask you is, do you think if Walt Disney didn't have as much support as he did to keep playing the game, he would have still been as successful? Let's say he made 1 or 2 movies and voila, it wasn't working. Then he decided to quit because he has spent all the money he had. Do you think he would have still continued? Just having enough money for yourself to buy your own small freedom beats whatever money can buy. Be it a Lamborghini, be it most people the people who are the most happy on this earth are people who are free to do whatever they want. Now, just knowing you can quit your job if your boss is being rude, or just knowing you can do anything in this life, that's so amazing. Now, you might wonder why investment bankers and even doctors, a lot of doctors quit their job for this exact same reason. They are not free. We all claim to not care about others, but do you know it's actually psychologically impossible not to care about what humans think? Humans have a large need to belong. In fact, belonging is what kept us alive. Now, imagine most of the time, the reason we spend our money on things is not that we want social status, it's because we want to be loved and respected. Morgan Housel really spoke to me here. Morgan Housel really spoke to me here because I still have that feeling that every human does. We think we can buy respect and love with money. But in his words, just being humble can get us the love and respect we need. And I find that partially true. The reason why I find that partially true is because we can't deny how badly poor people and homeless people are being treated. A man once said on TikTok that the reason black people spend a lot of money is because we hate to be looked poorly. Because poor people are treated badly. And for me, that's the truth, because that's why most people go out of their means to prove they are not poor. Especially in my country, poor people are treated so badly by police, by the government, even by fellow people. It's crazy. But most of the reason we can feel being treated badly is because of pride. Because let's say you didn't have pride, most of the way you're treated you wouldn't really care about it, because it's just bounce off through you. Now we get to the most important part of this book, and this section of this book really opened my eyes. The singer Rihanna went bankrupt after overspending, and she sued her financial advisor. The advisor responded, was it really necessary to tell her that if she spent money on things, she will end up with things and not money? Now let's talk, for example, you exercise and you burn calories, right? But you consume a lot of calories. Do you expect to actually lose weight? Now also explains that is the same thing with money. He said building wealth has to do with how much you save rather than how much you make. For example, energy efficiency has been the trend over the years. EV cars have increased in sales this year in particular. Now at the subconscious level, this proves how we humans know we have to save as much as possible. Morgan Housel said the most important ways to increase your savings isn't to increase your income, but to increase your humility. Now, this is honestly true, but dropping humility isn't easy, to be honest. But he also came back to touch on this, and that part he mentioned, the way he explained how to deal with this was really important. Now, the way to help you with humility is this. Morgan Housel said everyone has their own game to play. Beware of taking financial cues from people playing a different game than you are. This sounds simple, but for me, it's really deep. Wait, do you mean that so people are on Earth playing a different game than I currently am? I thought we were all doing the same thing. I thought we were all humans. You've heard about bubbles, right? The AI bubble, the housing bubble, all of that. Why do they pop? Let's say you buy a stock. Let's say you buy a Google stock. How much would you buy it for? $100, $200, $300? Well, that will depend on who you are. If a short-term trader is buying it for $100 and you look at the price of the stock increasing to $100, a lot of short-term traders are buying it for that amount. And you decide, okay, let me rush it now. And you're a long-term trader. You don't expect to not get caught, because you are playing a different game than them. Let's say now you're a long-term trader and you plan to hold the stock for about 2 years, and the short-term traders leave the trade. That means they are leaving on you. You are the exit liquidity. So boom, they leave. You are with the debt, because you were following their short-term advice while playing a long-term game. Everyone is playing a different game. Now imagine a hyena. Let's say in the jungle, a lion wants to eat a buffalo, and a hyena wants to steal what the lion got. We are not playing the same game. A lion cannot do what a hyena would do, and a hyena cannot do what a lion would do. Now, for humans, it's much different. We are the same creatures, but every single one has a different game. And it's the games we are playing that leads to different plans. So I'll advise you to read on your own. This is probably the summary of the book from my perspective, and I'll advise you to read the book on your own to get a better understanding in your own perspective. Well, this is me, and maybe comment your thoughts, because I know some of you watching this would have finished the book already. So thank you. Stay safe.